And I'm Dr. Sam Dubé. Together, we're going to take you on an extraordinary journey with engaging people from around the world, starting from right here in Ottawa, the capital of Canada.
Hello, my beautiful friends, and welcome back to the Etiquette Show. I'm Conchetta Rose. Sensual Movement Studio, with the team representing the studio called New York Sensual Movement. The goal is to take bachata to a whole new level. Very classy, elegant, and sensual, which is still yet to be developed in New York. Offering group classes, workshops, and social parties, Sensual Movement Studio is the place to be. Today with us on the Etiquette Show, we have owner Anna Syme, along with her two beautiful teachers who she calls family, Oksana and Taylor. Thank you, ladies, for joining us here today on the Etiquette Show. Welcome, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Well, Anna, tell us, what is bachata?
Why don't I let one of my main instructors to talk about that? Taylor?
So bachata is a Latin dance that originates from the Dominican Republic. Here at Sensual Movement, we put a little sensual twist into this. So other than it being more of a traditional style of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we put a more sensual figure 8 into our hips. It is a very classy twist to the dance, and new to New York. So it is thriving everywhere right now and growing as we speak. And yeah, lots of twists happening with this dance.
So when you say it's new to New York, the dance is new to New York, or this type of dance is new to New York?
Sensual is growing everywhere. So it's a newer style, a newer form of this dance.
It's actually,
and I can demonstrate the difference between the traditional hips versus sensual if you would like me to. If that's helpful.
We're going to get
to
of dance in a minute, but first let's just see little basic. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So traditional. Welcome, people. There's so many people here. I can't. Okay. So traditional hips are basically when you choose to leave the hip behind rather than doing this figure 8 movement. Yeah. So when you go 1, 2, 3, 4, as you step, you leave the hip behind, and it's kind of like your hips are moving in a pendulum form. So it goes 1, 2, 3, tap, 5, 6, 7, tap. That is traditional. Yeah. So it kind of goes like this. Boom. Ah. Yeah. And it has this constant pendulum flow moving back and forth. Now, sensual is a little bit different in the hips with where they flow. So instead of leaving it behind like this, you're going to step into the hip and make a sort of figure 8 motion. Every single time you tap together, you're pushing through the floor to rise the hip and let it fall. Yeah, never this stuff. Yeah, so we keep it here. Boom. Ga, ga, he. Yeah?
Oh, I love
That's basically it.
Thank you. Like I said, we're going to get into a few steps. Taylor's going to show us a few.
Yeah, sure.
But I love
Sure.
demonstration. So now let me ask you, ladies, do I need to have a partner to do bachata?
No, you don't. We have all type of students. We rotate, so you can just come by yourself, and we will rotate, and you will actually meet other students and practice with everybody.
Okay, so I can, single woman, just show up and meet people there. That's a great little meeting spot, little sensuality. Right? That, I love it. So what level of classes do you guys have? Is it just beginner, or does it go all the way up to intermediate, professional level?
We have beginner, we have complete beginner, we have intermediate, we have advanced, we even have like private lessons for those who want extra attention and to advance faster. We also have performance teams, and they travel throughout the United States and perform in different states. So we have all type of levels.
Oh, wow. Now, are you, Taylor and Oksana, are you on these teams, or do you teach, or what are your positions?
So,
Both.
yeah, a little bit of both. I actually teach a styling class for sensual movement right now, so you don't need a partner in my class. um, but my class is mostly focused towards body movement and the technique of bachata and also fusing different styles. My background is very wide ranged in dance, so I like to implement those things into my work. But my class specifically is like more of an open level class, but our partner work classes do have levels, but you don't necessarily have to have a partner.
Okay, cool. And how about you, Oksana?
Yeah, I also. So I'm a new family member, I could say. I joined only in December, I think, or even January. Yeah. Yeah, and mainly I'm a performer for congresses. Yes. And also I teach hip hop and heels.
Sorry,
So,
say hip hop and heels.
yes, hip hop and heels. Yes.
Explanatory?
Hum?
Is that self-explanatory? Am I doing hip hop and heels in your class?
There's two different styles, hip hop and heels. So I do both of them.
Oh, gotcha. That's very cool. So now, Anna, do you teach as well?
But no, I don't teach. I organize and I hire professionals like them to teach.
Yes.
And
Amazing. So what inspired the creation of this studio?
So there is this couple from Europe, from Spain, because Sensual Bachata is huge in Spain, nothing like in the United States. So when I saw them, I fell in love with them. My friend from DC, she brought them because she wanted people here to learn from the best. They literally are the best. Danielle and Desiree, if you Google them, they have like 27 million views. They're like a bachata celebrity.
Oh, wow.
So when I saw them, I was like, oh my God, I want them here in New York. So I contacted their manager and I signed a contract with them so we can actually teach their team and exclusively in New York. Mm-hmm. So we got videos and actually our performance teams are their choreo that they create. So then I wanted to bring that level and that style to New York. So we were actually the first studio in New York that started that style. But now, like Taylor mentioned, it just exploded. And I'm now also trying to do it in Miami, Orlando. We just expanded in Orlando. So now trying to start something here in Miami. So yeah, we're just trying to expand it in the United States.
That's fabulous. How amazing. And you guys are located right at Ripley Greer Studios in Manhattan, right?
Right.
Amazing. So very central location. We can all get there. That's fabulous. So where are your dance teachers from? They're from all over then, I take it, yeah?
Yeah, like Joanna that you were just talking to, she's from France. Taylor, you're from Kentucky. So cute. And then Oksana is from Russia. From Russia with love.
Ukraine, it's Ukraine.
I'm sorry. Ukraine. Same thing. We're all family. We're all one big family. Ukraine, Russia, we all love each other. And then Patrick, where is Patrick from, Taylor?
He's from Uruguay.
And then I have a couple of different pictures, but yeah, everybody's from different countries, which what makes it so united and unique.
Yes. What a beautiful cultural experience in one spot. I love that. So yeah. I see on your website that there's membership that I can join with you guys, but do I need to be a member to take a class?
No, you can just show up. We used to have capacities due to COVID, but now they removed them. So now anybody can just show up at any time. I mean, during our classes time.
So we do walk-ins as well. Like if I just decide one day
Now, yes.
Wow, wonderful. That's fabulous. So are any classes offered online?
No, because we feel like it's not the same. You can really focus on a student in person, correct them. Online, it's a little bit tougher.
Sure.
So we were never really fans of doing online classes, to be honest.
How did you guys do during COVID, during the lockdowns and everything?
We had capacity limits, so we could only have 13 people in class. Everybody had to wear a mask, and we just followed the guidelines. But we were closed for about a year, I think about a year, but then we opened up when everybody started slowly opening up. But yeah, we were closed for a while.
I would have, now it's picking up again, lots more.
It's picking up. I felt bad for our instructors because they do it for a living.
Right.
So it was tough, but we're back in business.
Fabulous. That's amazing. And where can our friends find you guys? How can they sign up with you guys? How can they see your class schedules, things like that?
Our website is www.sensualmomentstudio.com. And we used to be called New York Sensual Moment, but because we're expanding now, we just removed New York, so now we're just Sensual Moment. So our Facebook is Sensual Moment. Our Instagram is Sensual Moment. Yeah, so you can message us, you can call us.
That's amazing. And tell me again, now I heard what you two girls teach, but are there other classes that we can take with you guys as well?
We mostly specialize in sensual bachata. Mm-hmm. If somebody is looking for salsa, contemporary, hip hop, or hills, we do offer that as well. But our majority classes, our specialty is sensual bachata.
That's amazing. Amazing. Well, now, Taylor, I understand you're going to teach me a few things here. You gave us a brief little...
I'll whip it up. Let's go.
Okay. I am nervous.
It's okay. We'll just do
We'll do it slow, right?
We'll give you a little bit of just simple pattern and maybe a little bit of sensual styling, yeah?
Yeah, and for you guys at home, get up out of your chairs and do this with us. Come on, get a little bit. I'm ready.
Okay. So, since we are all ladies here and we're going to do styling, we're going to start to the right on our one, okay? One is with the right leg. So, you start in a tap. We're going to go to the right. Normal basic. We go 1, 2, 3, tap. After this, you're going to give me a half of a bachata box. You're going to go 5, 6, forward, 7, 8. That's just the feet. Okay? Go back. We go basic to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, forward, 7, 8. Let's turn around just for the feet, and then we'll add some arms, yeah?
Yes.
So we go, starting with the right leg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah?
Yes.
Can we add some arms?
Yes.
A little bit? Okay, so for the basic, you can keep normal basic arms. Initially, you want to keep your arms up by your ribs, like you're playing the drums a little bit, yeah? So it's very, very natural. Just let them flow. Nothing too crazy, yeah? So we go 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to give me left arm up. 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah? Super simple.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Almost.
From the back. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh.
Yeah? Now we'll add a few more steps of body movement, roll stuff, yeah? So we just collected, we went 5, 6, 7, 8. From here, your arms are going to go to your hips. You're going to step out and do a big, nice booty roll. I feel weird screaming that in public, but okay. You're going to go to the side from the right. Here, boom. And you're going to send your butt back and around to the left side and collect. Okay, and the whole time your arms are going to stay here on your hips. Okay, so we just went like this. 5, 6, 7, 8. Go 1, 2, 3. Collect 4. Yeah?
Yes.
Can we add one more? Let's do a big body roll from here. Okay, so you go booty roll, diggy diggy dee, collect. You're going to step out to the corner, and you're going to go right arm up, Big body roll, chest up, ribs up, squeeze the butt, and release. Yeah, and the arm is going up to the ear. So we go.
Woo!
Woo. And down. Collect.
Damn,
We start the
girl.
basic again. Yeah? So all together, really, really slow. I'll do it this way, and then I'll turn around. So we go. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. Booty roll. 1, 2, 3, and body roll. 5, 6, 7, 8. Go 1. Yeah? We'll go once facing this way. Once facing this way, and then is that okay?
Yes. One more time.
Okay, great. Cool. We go. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. Booty roll. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1.
Wow!
Kind of, sort of.
Taylor, thank you so much. That was absolutely amazing. I am going to
Very
take
simple.
the dance floor. Let me tell you something else. For those of you watching at home, please join these amazing teachers over at Sensual Movement Studio. Thank you, ladies, so much for being here with us today on the Etiquette Show. Anna, thank you. Oksana, thank you. And
Thank you so much.
We'll see
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
Christine Sloan Stoddard for the Etiquette Show here. My guest is Taryn Beer, psychotherapist. Welcome, Taryn.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, thank you. Taryn, in general terms, what does a psychotherapist do?
Psychotherapists offer emotional support and we facilitate emotional and personal growth.
Wonderful. So who needs psychotherapy?
I think everybody needs psychotherapy. Why not get some extra support if it's out there and available?
Yeah, definitely. So on that note, what do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions about psychotherapy?
I think people think if you're seeing a therapist, that means that you're crazy or something's wrong with you. And there's this stigma just attached to mental health in general. And I think that really, with life and all the challenges that happen in life and the fact that it's always changing, everybody needs support. And while some people need more support than others, it's always just good to have that extra support nearby when you need it.
I love that word that you use, stigma. It's unfortunate, but true.
Unfortunately, yes, it is very true.
So at what point should someone go from curiosity about therapy to actually booking an appointment?
Well, if you're noticing that you're struggling with the same things and you're having difficulty figuring things out, or if your support network doesn't necessarily have the time or space to offer you, it's a good idea to move ahead and to book an appointment and start to see somebody so that you can start to navigate things and really figure things out.
Yeah. So for your clients, what does a first-time appointment typically look like?
Well, I always offer a free consultation call beforehand. And so in that call, we both get a feel for each other to figure out if it's a good fit. Once we move on from there, I usually like to allow the client to really run the show. We're building a relationship, and so wherever they want to start is where they start. And that's a good time for us to build rapport, and also for me to get a better idea of exactly what the client is struggling with and how I can sort of structure sessions moving forward.
So how can someone tell if it's going to be a good fit or not during this consultation? And I love that you offer that, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, usually it's a vibe. It's a lot of the time it's a personality match. A lot of the time it has to do with hearing a little bit about my background and my experience in working with whatever it is they're coming to therapy for, to get support for. And so, yeah, it's typically a pretty easy process. Usually clients are shopping around, so to speak, for different therapists, and they're just sort of waiting to find someone that they click with.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how do you define success for your clients?
Well, they really define their own success. It's not really for me to say that they're being successful, but generally if they start to feel better, if things start to make sense for them, if they feel like there's growth, that's success. And, you can't really measure success when it comes to therapy either. And again, that's really up to the client to see for themselves.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how often should people have therapy sessions to get the most benefit?
I think once a week is a really good amount of time. It's 45 minutes every week. Sometimes as clients are doing therapy for a longer time, they might cut back to biweekly, but typically I would recommend once a week.
Do you think the pandemic has affected general societal attitudes about therapy?
I think it probably took away a lot of the stigma. Everybody was going through so much during the pandemic, and it became a lot to deal with on your own, and people were juggling a lot of things at once. And so I think there's a better attitude generally surrounding therapy these days.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So on your website, you describe your services as person-centered, humanistic, and strength-based. What does all of that mean? Because it sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm helping clients become more self-aware and to reach their potential. So it's not really about what other people think that the client should be doing or what other people might think the client's potential is. It's about them finding their own potential, them kind of reaching towards self-actualization, feeling clarity about themselves and their own lives.
Well, do you think that the pandemic has affected people's need for therapy? Maybe in terms of thinking about what they want out of life, what their potential is or could be, or anything else?
Yeah, I think a lot of people were very confused over the pandemic, and things that were a big part of their identities were taken away. And so I think it left a lot of people in this state of confusion. And I definitely think that there's been more of a need since then for people to sort of navigate and figure out, who am I? What are my next steps in life? What are the things that really matter to me? So absolutely.
So you have experience working with issues concerning couples, trauma, LGBTQ, poly, and kink. What do you find rewarding about working with these different communities?
I think that, this is a very niche community. It is a very, these are very taboo sort of issues. And they're very valid issues, but I think that a lot of people don't have the openness to sort of explore this with clients. And I think it's really rewarding for me to offer them a judgmental-free, safe space to discuss very natural and important issues in their own lives.
So do you consider yourself a sex positive therapist?
Absolutely. 100% sex positive.
How do you interpret that term?
we're just kind of taking the taboo and the stigma away from sex. Like, let's normalize sex. Let's normalize talking about sex. Giving sex and conversations around sex a really good comfy vibe. You know, and obviously, consent is 100% important. So if you're wanting to engage in any kind of sex that is consensual, it is absolutely a positive and fantastic thing to have in your life.
I love that phrase, comfy vibe.
Yeah, let's be comfy about sex. It is a thing that we all do. It is a thing we all know about. It is a thing that we all need. And let's not make it weird.
Agreed. All right, so let's talk about couples. What advice do you have for couples who are considering therapy?
I mean, the number one thing is really to communicate. You know, if you're thinking about going into therapy, communicate your needs and what you want to get out of therapy. You know, navigate it together, look for a therapist together, you know, familiarize yourself with the process and support each other through the process. You know, couples therapy can be really difficult, and also allowing each other to have space to process after sessions, making each other feel comfortable and safe to address whatever it is they need to in therapy, and really just trying to get the most out of it, because obviously there's a reason for them coming.
Yeah. Have you found that the pandemic has affected couples in any particular way over people who are not in relationships?
Definitely. I mean, for a long time, couples who were living together were spending, you know, round the clock time with each other. More time than they ever thought that they would spend probably with their partner. And so that raises some issues, naturally. And also couples who are not living with each other, working around, you know, everyone's, you know, different precautions they took for the pandemic, scheduling things, you know, figuring out everyone's needs during this time. It was a lot to juggle, and it definitely made things tougher.
So what's generally your starting place for working with a new couple?
So similar to working with an individual, we would have a consultation call. I would meet with the couple together first, where I would just sort of observe the couple, get to know them, take a look at their dynamic, take a look at the way they communicate with each other. And then after that, I usually see both members of the couple individually, to give them an opportunity to just kind of be themselves as individuals and sort of get to know them in that way as well. And then we come back together and start to figure out, again, let them lead and figure out how exactly they want to navigate this. What are the issues they'd like to address, you know, and build a plan from there.
From your observations, has the pandemic affected issues concerning sexuality? Like how people are practicing sex, when they're doing it, how they're seeing themselves, perceiving themselves?
I think that a lot of people during the pandemic, because we were in lockdown, didn't have the opportunity to express themselves as they would before. Some people who might be living with family also perhaps had to be a little bit more closeted during this time. And so, again, this lack of sexual expression, this lack of general expression, and that was definitely a really difficult time. I think also, you know, a lot of people who were used to dating or used to, you know, like meeting new partners, obviously that all of that had to stop. Casual sex was definitely something that had to stop as well, just because of the lockdown and because of, you know, health risks and whatnot. And so it definitely people definitely struggled with that. And again, there was just this big lack of expression in that way during this time.
Well, now that you mentioned this lack of expression, or this feeling that you can't express yourself, I've been hearing a lot about people being concerned about how their bodies have changed during the pandemic, especially with weight loss and weight gain because of the anxiety. Is that something that has come up? And what would you say to anyone who's fearing having sex or meeting new partners because of how their body might have changed during this time?
Definitely something that's been coming up. And, it's not only are we struggling with our bodies, and how our bodies have changed during this time, but also just like the social anxiety in general that's coming up from like not utilizing that muscle, that social muscle for so long. It's definitely making things more awkward and self-conscious. And I think that, continue to put yourself out there, accept your body for where it's at right now. This is who you are. You went through a lot of trauma this past year. And trauma manifests in so many different ways. And in one way that could mean weight gain or body changes. And, there's nothing wrong with that. And practicing acceptance, getting vulnerable with people and just embracing where you're at right now, I think is the best thing I could tell people.
Thank you for saying that. All of us need more kindness. And more
be kind to yourself. Exactly. We went through a lot this year. A lot. So.
Yeah. Well, has the pandemic affected issues concerning gender identity as far as you can tell?
I don't know if I can tell that there's a direct correlation between the pandemic and gender identity, but I think, gender identity and people who are struggling with gender identity and trying to kind of come to a peaceful point in that for themselves, I think that's just an ongoing issue with or without the pandemic that people are constantly struggling with and need support and love and kindness.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's shift to video conferencing. Did you offer video sessions prior to New York City's COVID shutdown?
I did not. We were 100% in office.
Ooh, so talk about that transition. What did that look like?
At first, it was a little strange, especially when I would start with new clients over video. And it was interesting having never actually met them in person. But over time, I realized that it wasn't all that different from in person. And also, it really allowed me to see more clients, offer a lot more flexibility to clients. I think my clients really, really appreciated not having to like schlep out to my Manhattan office. Being able to be in the comfort of their own home while they have a session. So all in all, I think it was actually a really good thing.
Great. Well, you kind of touched on this already, but what have you specifically appreciated about video conferencing?
For me personally, again, it gave me a lot more flexibility. I'm able to see a lot more clients. And it also gave me the luxury of being able to be with closer to my family. I have a young daughter, and so being able to be with her after school, and kind of being able to see her in between appointments has been a really big luxury for me. So it's been really nice. And I plan on staying remote.
Ooh, that's great. So what have clients been saying about video conferencing?
They've really liked it. When a new client starts with me, they ask me, if they start with me these days, they ask me if I'm seeing clients in person or virtually. I let them know that it's virtual and they're thrilled with it. It is much easier for people to avoid that commute. And so, generally people are extremely happy about this change.
So you're doing all virtual all the time?
All virtual all the time.
Oh, okay. So it's not, at this time, it's not just supplementing in person. It is completely virtual.
We are completely virtual. I use, of course, a HIPAA compliant Zoom. So it's 100% safe and confidential for my clients. And it's been great.
Yeah, lovely. Well, that is all the time we have. Thank you so much, Taryn.
Thank you so much. This was great, and I hope that everybody got a little bit more information from this and figures out what they want to do in terms of their mental health and their therapy.
Definitely. All right, viewers, I'm Christine Sloan Stoddard, signing off. Christine Sloan Sloan Stoddard for the Etiquette Show here. My guest is naturopathic doctor Noreen Kelly. Welcome, Noreen.
Hi, how are you?
Great. Thank you so much for being here. In honor of Pride Month, we have asked Noreen to discuss her work with people of diverse sexual orientations and gender experiences. So, Noreen, broadly speaking, what does a naturopathic doctor do?
A naturopathic doctor has the same background and training as a regular medical or allopathic doctor, only our approach is to use drugs last, in the last possible moment. So we utilize herbs, homeopathy, nutrition, and supplementation, and lifestyle as our modalities in order to help people with their symptoms and their chronic illnesses mostly.
Great. So you're also a clinical herbalist and homeopath. So
Yes.
How are these roles different yet related?
Those roles I had before I attained my doctorate. They are modalities that naturopaths use, but I have more training than a normal naturopath would have in those particular modalities. So I add those to the chain of my my expertise.
It's a nice long chain.
Yeah.
So why might members of the I'm going to start that one all over. Why might members of the LGBTQ community seek your expertise?
Well, I am a queer person myself, and I have had training and with LGBTQ people, how to treat them, trans people in particular. I see a lot of LGBTQ people. Obviously, being a queer person myself, I empathize with the treatment that sometimes they can get from a so-called normal doctor. So that's basically it. I think mostly it's empathy and similar experiences.
Yeah, definitely important. So you've reserved a percentage of your practice for sliding scale appointments, and LGBTQ patients are among those who receive priority when these appointments become available. Why did you make this choice?
I made this choice because I want to see more of those patients. Those patients are very important. It's very important to me to have a majority of my patients be LGBTQ identified. And also sometimes, especially with trans youth and other LGBTQ people, not everyone can afford insurance. Not everyone can afford to pay $200 for an hour or something. I want to make sure, because this population is very important to me, that I can provide a service that's not going to, be exasperatingly expensive for them.
Great. So people just self-identify, or do you confirm with any medical history, any kinds of paperwork from the past?
No, people self-identify and I go with it. It's a spectrum of different people. There's no way to really prove it, but
Right.
I go.
That makes sense. So while attaining your doctorate, you created an outreach program for LGBTQ students. What inspired this move?
Well, the place where I went to school in Connecticut is sort of an insular community. It has the highest disparity of wealth in the entire state. It has a lot of students from different countries and different backgrounds where there's a lot of homophobia. So I wanted to create a safe space for other LGBTQ people to come and, be around, have a community. So mostly consisted of us having meetings and having talks and, question answer things, like events where people could ask questions if someone was trans or somebody was a person of color who was LGBTQ, where people could have a dialogue, basically. And I think that people really appreciated it. I hope that they did. It was good. It was a nice experience for me.
So was the program just for other students in your specific?
No, it was the entire university. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was young people, like people who were just sort of questioning, coming out and everything. And just so some people just would come to the meetings and just sit there and not say anything, but just want to be a part of it. Everybody had their own level of comfortability with, being part of that kind of community. So we just kind of just let it happen. Whoever wanted to talk could talk. And I hope that it helps some people, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Did you have a similar program at any of your other schools?
No, I hadn't been to college really since the 90s, so not like proper university college anyway, so no, not really. Yeah, there wasn't a lot of that stuff when I was a kid, so.
Well, it's good that there are these changes.
Yeah. It was fun too. It wasn't all serious, so. We had fun.
Well, actually, on that note, and this is a question I had not intended to ask, what advice do you have for anyone who's in this community who is interested in following your career path, in doing some of the same or similar things?
I would get some science classes under your belt, get some hard science classes, organic chemistry, biochemistry, physics, those sorts of things. You can just like take them at a local CUNY, your local CUNY, that's fine. Unfortunately, the school in Connecticut is not going to teach naturopathy anymore, but there's a school in Chicago, there's a school in Canada, in Toronto, there's a school in Seattle. You basically have to go to the West Coast, and I feel like those schools might be a little bit more open to queer community over there. That's what I've heard. So I would apply, I would get maybe a year or two of really hard sciences, and then try to apply to this school. And then they'll tell you what you need in order to apply to that specific school, because they're all different. Yeah, I'm not sure if naturopathy is particularly open to LGBTQ people yet or not, but they're definitely open to it. Naturopaths very much want to understand marginalized populations, so there's the openness, just the experience isn't there. So my main advice would be, you're going to be a teacher. You're going to teach people basically how to say and how to act. Yeah.
What advice do you have for LGBTQ patients who are seeking a naturopathic doctor?
I would look for one. I would email one and tell them that you're LGBTQ and ask them what experience they have with that population. Finding a local one, make sure that you find one that went to a 4-year naturopathic college, because a lot of people can sort of call themselves naturopaths with having like maybe a year or a few months of training, or even like with a correspondence course. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So that's a really important point. You want someone who has had medical training and then who has had like the subsequent clinical experience of at least 2 years with seeing patients, obviously in a clinic. So ask them what their experience is with their degree, what their experience is with LGBTQ populations, and just get a feel for, how intelligent, like their level of intelligence as far as, our community.
Yeah. Well, what are some signs? Perhaps you've asked the right questions. It seems like they've given you the right answers, but you go, and as a patient, what are some of the signs that this may or may not be the right doctor for you?
I would say if they're not using the right language, or if they don't use your pronoun, your requested pronoun, I would say a lot of the time, if they don't have very much experience, or they weren't taught in school anything about how to talk to trans people when they're doing a physical exam on them, if they don't have any experience with that, I would ask them if they had that training and how well they did with it and how it made them feel, maybe, if you really want to get deep with it. But yeah, unfortunately, maybe in some places you would just have to meet the person and get a vibe for them.
Yeah, a vibe check.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably true with any kind of doctor. It's just such an intimate relationship, or can be.
Yeah. Well, also, naturopaths, a lot of them offer a free, like, 10-minute phone consultation. So definitely do that and kind of gauge where their knowledge set is, where they're at.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a great service to know about.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you, Noreen. Christine Sloan Stoddard signing off. Christine Sloan Stoddard for the Etiquette Show here. My guest is Anissa Miley, licensed clinical social worker and therapist. Welcome, Anissa.
Hi there, Christine. Thanks for having me.
Hi. Yeah, of course. Thanks so much for being here. So in honor of Pride Month, dear viewers, we have asked Anissa to discuss her work with people of diverse sexual orientations and gender experiences. Anissa, just broadly speaking, what does a licensed clinical social worker do?
Everything, really. But specifically, I, as a social worker, work individually with clients in a therapy context. So I work one-on-one for about 45 minutes to an hour, helping people to achieve goals that they have around their mental health. So helping them to reduce mood and anxiety issues, helping them to achieve personal or career goals, deal with stress related to their social identities, like their LGBTQ identity or their racial identity, dealing with life transitions or with grief.
Great. So, is therapy just for individuals who are sick or think they might be sick?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of folks think that therapy is something for folks who need to be hospitalized, right? That are on, multiple different types of meds. They need to be in a clinic all day. And while therapy is useful for folks at that end of the spectrum, therapy is also useful for folks who want to hone or sharpen their coping strategies, who need additional support. I like to think of it as this special space that's kind of a gift for folks who want to have someone that is outside of their family or their friend network who they can leverage for additional coping strategies or support.
Wonderful. So what are the particular reasons someone from the LGBTQ community might seek therapy?
Yeah, so often LGBTQ folks, they might struggle with coming out, right? And coming out by that, I mean, although that happens all the time, every time you introduce yourself to someone or share something about your life, folks are coming out. But some folks haven't had that experience with anyone in their lives. So being able to negotiate what that means for them, what it means to be LGBTQ identified or non-binary, what that means for them internally and what that means for their relationships with other people. So that's helpful. Also, LGBTQ folks, non-binary folks are also at higher risk for other issues like mood and anxiety issues because of that alienation or isolation, that lack of global acceptance of their identity. So they might be at higher risk for depression or anxiety, substance use. They might struggle with relationships, not having a lot of models for how to engage in healthy relationships. So therapy is a good space to be able to cope with those things. They might be navigating stressors related to employment or housing, moving up in their career, navigating interpersonal relationships with staff. So dealing with minority stress as well.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
So how do you work with transgender clients specifically?
Yeah, so I like to think of myself as trans affirming, trans celebratory, and also working with non-binary folks as well. So being a supportive, validating space to be able to just acknowledge that it's okay for folks to be who they are. Some folks are interested in some sort of intervention. They're interested in a specific transition. So I might help them to be able to clarify their needs and their story, to be able to create, if they need some sort of some documentation to be able to change their ID paperwork, to be able to have any sort of medical intervention if that's what they're interested in, but also just to be able to process what that, what the experience is like, and how they're interacting with other folks. So some of the similar issues that I described earlier, some mood and anxiety. Some folks just need another space where they feel celebrated and validated. Some folks need to understand or support around navigating makeup and clothes and relationships and dating and sex and, just some normal things too. Or some, typical global things that lots of people deal with. So that's generally the work, providing validation, support, and helping them to figure out what their needs are, and then partnering with them alongside, not dragging them. There's no specific one best way for an experience to happen, but just supporting people in partnership.
Beautiful. So what advice do you have for LGBTQ clients who seek a safe space with a therapist?
So this is, it's tough because in some ways it puts they can't assume that every clinician will be supportive and affirming. The laws are just changing around around trans identity and LGBTQ identity not being pathologized, even in the diagnostic manual for I don't know if this is. So the diagnoses for LGBTQ folks, this has recently changed in the last 50 years or so. So for a lot of clinicians might not be affirming in their approach. They might not feel comfortable in connecting with LGBTQ folks. So being able, the ownership over seeking that kind of clinician, it requires that clients be able to say, to be able to ask questions. Have you served LGBTQ folks before? Are you comfortable with providing a safe space for me? What does that look like for you? What are your values around inclusion? What kind of training have you had to be able to support this population? I think that's the basics of what I would suggest for folks.
Definitely. So beyond asking these explicit questions, what are some of the signs that a therapist might be a good fit for a client? How can a client tell?
I think it's about feeling warmth, feeling celebrated, not feeling like their identity needs to shift in any particular way. Again, earlier I was talking about there not being a one best way for trans supportive therapy to look, right? So that, not being forced to come out in any specific way if that's not something that they're interested in, that they don't need to go through any sort of specific transition, to be like any sort of confirmation of their identity in any sort of way. But being able to let them, it's a partnership, understanding that it's a partnership with the clients, understanding that they're leading, they're the experts in their own lives. That's what I would look for. And that is what I look for.
Definitely. Well, so to go off of that same idea, are there signs that a therapist might not be a good fit? Just things that are very explicit.
Yeah, lack of comfort, lack of interest, not wanting to talk about it, not feeling, not having much training or support, not being competent, but also not even doing any of their own research to be able to become more knowledgeable. I think that is a red flag for me.
Yeah, that's a great point. Not everyone. None of us know everything, I should say, about anything, even our specialties, and open and doing research is so important. So what advice do you have for someone who's hesitant about starting therapy for any reason?
Yeah, I would say there's so many different websites that provide some basic information about therapists, like Psychology Today, like My Wellbeing, like Alma and Headway. So you can get, they've done extensive interviews of clinicians that, you can look at their bios just to kind of, in the same sort of way that you might look for a dating partner, right? There are now a lot of these platforms where you can look for a clinician, and then you can engage them, reach out to a few people, not feel like you need to commit to the first person that you talk to, but reach out and have a conversation. A lot of clinicians provide 15 to 30-minute phone or Zoom consultations where you can sit down and get to know someone, and see if it's a good fit.
Oh, that's really good to know. All right, so that's all the time we have. Thank you, Anissa. Christine Sloan Stoddard, signing off. Boom. Okay, thank you. Do you want to answer? I know, I told you it was going to be this awkward thing.
No, that was fine. But there was a moment where I was like, DSM? I cannot remember that word.
So I was going to ask if you want to answer that question again.
I do.
Okay, so that was the question about what advice do you have for LGBTQ clients seeking a safe space with a therapist?
Yeah, I don't know where I was going.
Trust me.
Can you ask the question again? What advice for LGBT folks seeking therapy?
Seeking a safe space with a therapist.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to, blah, 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 blah. Now my turn. I'm going to ask it again, and then you'll answer it again. Thank you. Okay. What advice do you have for LGBTQ clients seeking a safe space with a therapist?
I would encourage folks to ask questions, to feel empowered, to see themselves as a consumer of services, someone that they're hiring to support them. So feeling comfortable asking, hey, how much experience do you have serving this community? How do you identify your own sexual orientation and gender identity? Those questions seem basic to me. And if a clinician feels comfortable answering, locating themselves in their sexual orientation and gender identity, can talk about what they know, what they don't know, what they want to learn, I think that's a good start.
Excellent.